In the meanwhile, 11 degrees, snow on the ground. Why not talk about golf? Close our eyes and think about what it might be like with a soft, warm summer breeze blowing and get out there and swing a few golf clubs. The thing is, apparently not enough of us are doing that when the season is around. We'll talk about that now as we have a group of folks in the room who will help us understand the challenges of owning and maintaining municipal golf courses. First of all, let's welcome to the studio today Battle Creek City Commissioner Mark Behnke. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning.
And also here today is Ron Osborne. He's the general manager at Binder Park Golf Course.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for being here today. And also with us today, Jeff Hovarter, who is the Battle Creek Parks and Recreation Director for, another 5 minutes or something there?
Somewhere in that neighborhood.
Happy retirement. Okay. And also with us today is Kevin Smith, who is with operations at the Parks and Rec Department as well. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for all being here today. We are not alone with these challenges, so we certainly have heard about it to our west in Kalamazoo, where they've been trying to close a golf course, and that deal hasn't worked out for them so well. And as you talk with folks who run golf courses, you hear a fair amount about the challenges associated with that. Characterize what it's like these days and why it is this way. Any one of you who wants to take that lead.
Well, this is Jeff Hovarter. There are a number of issues, some of them local, some of them national trends. At a local level, whether it be the Kalamazoo Battle Creek market or the Jackson market, we have been this way for nearly 20 years, two of the most saturated golf markets in the United States.
Really? Wow.
That's on a per capita basis, so we have a lot of holes of golf for the population we serve, which makes the game challenging. We've really spread the customer base over a number of golf courses, which puts everybody else in a difficult situation. Other issues that really have evolved over time include the way our society consumes entertainment, and quite frankly, at this point, folks don't always like to spend 6 hours. Everybody thinks it's money, it's the economy, but in reality, as golf has evolved, people are finding it harder and harder to find that 4, 5, 6 hours. If you think about it, by the time you leave your house, you pack your stuff up, you get to the golf course, you get ready, you get your tee time, you go play, you get done, you unload, and you drive back home, you've eaten up at least 5.5 hours of your day. For some of us, we find that to be pleasure and some respite, but for much of this hurried society that we live in now, there just isn't enough time. So we've got to figure out a way as we move forward across the country to make golf a game or morph the game so that you can play it in shorter segments in a different way. But there's a lot that's got to change if we're going to grow the game.
Jeff didn't even talk about stopping at the 19th hole. That's part of all of that.
I suppose in retirement I don't have to be politically correct, but I was trying.
Fair enough. Yeah, you make a good point. And the other thing that grabbed me in those remarks is that the most saturated market, or one of them, you would think that'd be Punta Gorda or something. Michigan, really?
Well, Michigan is a mecca for golf. People don't think of us that way, but we have some of the most beautiful golf courses in the country, and we have a lot of them. And outside of Florida, Arizona, and California, we really are the next largest golf market in the country. This is a great place. People come from all over the country in the summertime to play golf in Michigan.
All right, when we come back in just a minute, we'll try to understand what challenges there are with Binder Park and the challenge that we have here locally. Coming up in just a minute on WBCK.
Are you
15 WBCK Wednesday, Richard Piet Show. We're talking about golf today, and what is the challenge with running municipal golf courses these days? So we've heard it takes a long time, and we've heard that we have a lot of choices here. Ron Osborne is the Binder Park Golf Course General Manager and is with us today as well. You've probably seen the results of that.
Yeah, we have. Binder Park, first of all, Richard, thanks for having us today. And before I get started on that question, I do want to clarify a couple of things just because of what's going on or showed up in the newspaper. Because I have had a lot of phone calls and questions. We are going to be operational in 2016 and hopefully for many years to come. We've been in the business since 1963. This will be our 53rd year. So Binder Park is a great, probably arguably one of the best municipal golf courses in the state. We're probably one of the busiest golf courses in the city, but again, we're in an oversaturated market. The challenge is trying to, operationally we make money, but trying to meet the bond payment that is the challenge ahead of us. So, and we can't restructure that until 2019. So our challenge is to get to 2019. To do so, we've got some ideas that we're working on. One of the things one of my coworkers, Kevin Smith from Parks and Rec, is helping lead that charge. We're working together to come up with some ideas that we can come up with additional ways to make revenue and utilize our facility more than just for golf. It's not a unique idea. Other facilities do that.
Sure.
So with that being said, there could be some reinvestment that needs to go into the facility if we do so. So that'll be something that we'll talk to the commissioners about when we come to that point. But Kevin is here with us today. Kevin might have some thoughts and ideas along those lines.
What are some of those ideas, Kevin? And as you look at the numbers, can they meet what you need them to meet?
It's going to be tough. It's not the bond payment. Initially the total bond was $3.5 million. We're down to about 1.9 now, so we paid off $1.6 million on the bond. We've restructured one other time also to minimize the payment. This current year, what's happened is there's a big kicker in the bond payment that went from $40,000 to $160,000, and so that's a tough nut to cut in 1 year, especially when you're looking at the market the way it is, and the economy is getting better, but yet jobs haven't really taken off. So at that point, then we started looking at other recreational things that we could do. We're looking at potentially having a banquet facility added on, so we can do weddings, some other small meetings, but that takes capital also to get into that kind of business. We're also looking at some other recreation things like some races potentially through the golf course at times where the golf course isn't being used, maybe something during the winter, a biathlon type deal, or a fat tire bike race that we could maybe find. We've already started foot golf out there during the fall, and during the winter now we do cross country skiing. We've got sledding hills. We're going to go sledding, but those are minor in terms of revenue, but it's good for the community, things like that. So we're still open. You can come out right now and sled if you'd like. But we're looking at figuring out what things are available for us with the land that we have to use. We're also talking about we have a driving range that slopes down and is fairly large, potentially doing some kind of a festival or a concert out in that range, and working with Kellogg Arena on that to see what we can help. So they're already looking at talking to promoters, and so those are the things that we're looking at.
Foot golf, Ron, is that like using the foot wedge? Because I've done that.
Actually, it's something that has really taken off across the country. It started in the western part of the U.S. and has moved this direction. We had quite a few kids, that a couple of the soccer teams used it either for training or even their year-end banquet, and then just a casual person. But it's foot golf is, think of a 2-foot diameter circle. That's your actual hole, and you actually use a soccer ball with your foot. So
wow.
We set it up on our practice holes. We have 9 holes there as well, so it's been fun.
It's a perfect game for a guy like me. It requires no talent.
I might be good at it too then. Of course, Mark, as the commissioner, you listen to all this, and whenever there's a budget concern, the commission pays attention to that stuff.
Yeah, and they do, and the city commission is very supportive of the golf course and the operation there. And the biggest thing that I heard out of the workshop that we had last month is that they're concerned about having any general fund subsidy. I mean, it would really solve all the problems if we would just take $70,000 out of the general fund to help pay the interest on an annual basis. I don't believe there's support for that right now. And there hasn't been support in the past either, because we've never had a subsidy from the general fund. So
does that mean that the money is there and could be used, but we don't want to, or the money doing that would create hardships elsewhere?
Yeah, I believe it would create hardship. But
Okay.
Binder Park has always been self-sufficient. They've always generated the monies that they needed to pay their expenses, and that's what's the beauty of the whole place. And I have the confidence in the staff to really come up with the ideas that we need. Putting out a couple more leagues may help too. I mean, the Lakeview Lounge League is the largest league that they have out there, and everyone knows someone that plays in that league on Wednesday night. So, like I said, I have the confidence in the city administration, and they're working diligently at coming up with ideas.
All right, we're talking about golf today and the challenges there, and we'll pick up where we leave off here in just a second on WBCK 820. 24 WBCK, we're talking about golf today, Binder Park in particular, and challenges that we're facing here in the city as a result of that. You know, it was reported, and Jeff, you have some perspective on this, that there's a piece of land that could be sold. Maybe that could help with the financial challenges here, or maybe sell the whole course. Kalamazoo's tried to do that with Eastern Hills. That hasn't worked out so well for them. Just hearing recently the deal has fallen through. But how easy is that?
Well, everybody has their own circumstance. In our case, the Binder property that the golf course and the zoo set on, that 578 acres, was a gift given to the city in 1957. And with that came some very, the attorneys back then were very thorough. This is a very clear deed with restrictions on what can and can't be done. And one of those is the city agreed to take the land in perpetuity to use for recreational purpose and generate revenue that had to be used and reinvested in the property. The golf course was the one of the things that was developed, obviously, under those covenants, as was the zoo. So we basically own the land in perpetuity. The ability to sell it does not exist. I suppose somebody could figure out a way, but it would take many years, and by then, you know, these are short-term issues that we're trying to get through. So
Right.
So for us, that's a non-starter. We're in the business. The second issue is the bank wants its money. It doesn't really care if we're in the golf business. We owe $1.9 million. The golf course is currently generating a percentage. It's generated all of it up to this point, and as we look forward, it's generating off the game of golf at least some significant portion of the principal and interest on the bonds. So to get out of the golf business and sell altogether actually makes your problem a lot worse. Now you got to come up with a much bigger chunk of money from the general fund if that were to happen, because you have no way of generating the revenue. Right. We do own land. You mentioned we do own land not associated with the golf course. People keep hearing that we're going to sell off portions of the golf course. That's not true at all. Again, we can't. But we do own other lands that were bought or purchased or were part of the golf fund that are within a reasonable distance, a half mile, a mile of the course, and those properties have value, and we haven't to this point had a will to market them, but now we obviously have a reason to get rid of those excess pieces if we can generate some income that can help in the short term solve, or it may be the capital that we use to invest in these other non-golf revenue opportunities.
Mm-hmm. So I think you raise an interesting point. Aside from the legalities of selling a piece of land that's meant to be a recreation piece for a long time, there may be a perception that land like this, what does that say? God isn't making any more, you know, and some developer is going to come along and hand over a truckload of money and say, yep, I'm going to build luxury homes there or something, and there's all kinds of profit to be made. You're saying that isn't so true.
That isn't so true, and by the way, that's exactly the problem with Eastern Hills over in Kalamazoo.
Right.
Is the battle between residents and the community's will to maintain this beautiful piece of property, and its real value, which is not in golf, it's in commercial development.
Right.
And you know, citizens not wanting the land to be used for that purpose. So obviously that created some issues for them. Binder would likely, we haven't ever had those conversations. That's not even been entertained. No, we haven't been approached by any commercial developers, but obviously it's a beautiful piece of land. The other piece of it is that we have to be very careful what we do, because although the golf course is a piece of it, this was a gift, the entire 578 acres. We have a tremendous asset also in the zoo that is quite successful. It's one of the best zoos in the Midwest, and we're not going to endanger
Right.
Or do something with the deed restrictions that could cause that land to revert back to its original owners and lose control of it, and then put the zoo in a tough spot. So that's just not going to happen. I mean, I'm retiring. That's for the commission to decide. But I speak for Mark when I say that's not going to happen.
Yeah. So, in the few seconds we have left, where do we stand now, and what kind of a time frame are we under as far as trying to determine what the options are and what course of action to take, Ron?
Well, again, the bonds can't be restructured until 2019, so we have to figure out a way to get to 2019. If we're successful in selling that land that Jeff was just talking about, that could help carry us if our projections were to stay the same, and hopefully they'll change. We've had one closure of a golf course in Battle Creek, so that could help our bottom line. But again, like Jeff had mentioned, we do make money. We do help pay a good sizable portion of that bond payment back. But until we can get to 2019, and if the commission chooses to restructure those bonds at that time, that would certainly make a difference.
Yeah, and right now we're getting some help from the National Golf Foundation. They've been in. We're members. They do that kind of stuff. They see best practices all over the country.
I bet they do.
So we're in dialogue with them. We're working on business plans for the banquet business, as well as working with our partners on the idea of entertainment, non-golf types of entertainment, the idea of some type of so all of those things are in the works, with the idea that by spring we'll have a clear strategic plan, a path that we can begin to implement. The land sale is key, because that really needs to buy us some time in 2016. Most of these businesses won't have legs or really begin to bear fruit till sometime in 2017. But we believe all of these are legitimate ideas. They just have to be flushed out, and we've been working really hard over the last 30 days, and staff will continue till we have a good plan.
Kevin, you're the money man. Does that make you feel okay?
Well, It's definitely a good option. It's one way to get us through this to 2019, and I think it makes sense for the golf course. There are many golf courses that do some of these things already. In that regard, I think we're looking like a duck, sounding like a duck, and trying to get as much revenue as we can out of the deal with the property we have. We have a great piece of property, for wedding receptions and such. We got some awesome sites that would be ideal for that. Just looking at, how to put it all together, what's it going to cost, how is it going to be funded in the meantime, and what are we going to get out of it at the end. But it's all doable in the long run.
Well, we'll stay in touch on this issue, and when you're ready to update us, we'll be ready to hear it. Thanks to all of you for your time today.
Thank you.
Appreciate the time. 8:30.